Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Leftovers, Season 3, Episode 8. It is called The Book of Nora. It is the series finale, never mind season finale, and I want to point out, I want to just sort of build context for this. We started this show in the start of June, end of May, something in there. It was meant to be a summer project. We were meant to finish by about mid-September, before all the sort of regular shows started coming back. Things got delayed, and the last season especially was kind of spread out, and we kept pushing episodes. So it's extremely wrong that I should be able to say this in this final episode, but I'm going to open this by saying Merry Christmas. Here's the finale of The Leftovers.
We finally made it. I mean, arguably, it's almost Christmas for us here now. But if you're watching this publicly on YouTube, Happy New Year.
No. This is going straight up. They've waited long enough. I'm not even going to put this up early on Patreon. This is going straight out. Merry Christmas. Just have it.
Christmas present to you all.
Yeah. It's just going straight out. I'm not delaying this at all. So this is the finale. This episode 8. Surprisingly focused episode, I have to say. I was not expecting, because even when we went to the future in this episode, we went to the old age Nora timeline. I did not expect that to be the rest of the episode.
No, me either. I was waiting for it to cut back, and it became clear after a while.
Yeah.
That, okay, no, this is it. But at first, still.
Yeah, I really thought that after a maybe 20-minute chunk, it would cut back.
I think it's funny because I remember last episode we said, oh, okay, that was Kevin's episode, and we expected this to be Nora's side of things, but I think not quite to this extent.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to me that Nora, a character in season 1 who was in like one scene in the premiere. I mean, she became more important as things went on, and obviously they set her up.
Only a couple of times in the premiere. She was up at the rally.
Yeah, and that was basically it. And then episode like 2 or 3, you had Jill's following her. She had the gun in her purse, and we had that whole thing. And then it was, obviously we see her meet Kevin in the scenes that are referenced heavily in this episode, and until we got to her episode with the hug when she went on the business trip to the seminar, the conference, whatever it was. And it's actually really fascinating to me that she gets the finale. She like the series finale is devoted to her. And it makes sense when we actually start talking about what it's about and where it ends up and how we end the show. It makes a lot of sense, but I just think it's fascinating looking back in the show and going, "Oh no, Kevin wasn't the fight." I mean, he's in the final scene and he's got a big part still, but
it's not
Nora's,
his episode.
Yeah, it's Nora's focus for the episode, and I suppose in a lot of ways it makes sense because she's the one who lost the most out of our main characters.
Yeah, and that somewhat explains the opening music. I remember last time you go, okay, so that was the music from season 1, last episode, and I said, would it not have made more sense to count backwards to it, do season 2 then season 1?
Yeah.
Whereas this did season 2, but it makes sense because Nora's story didn't really properly start until season 2.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, she like not really, not in the same way that Kevin's story was so focused in season 1, and Nora was there in season 1, and she had bits towards the end, but I don't think it was really. I don't think I would have counted her as a co-lead until season 2.
Okay. Yeah. I think her story started with her episode in season 1, but I mean,
sure.
But I mean, whatever. You got your stupid Australia win, so take what you can get.
I'm taking that to the grave.
Yeah.
That's on the tombstone. Was right about Australia.
I like how it'll say that, but it won't give you any context that it was about the leftovers. You'll just think, what was he right about Australia? What did he get right?
It's the beauty of it.
So
they will wonder for generations.
It very neatly splits into two chunks, essentially. You got your opening sort of 15-20 minute chunk, which is where we left Nora and Matt, with her wanting to go into this machine, and seemingly the scientists have agreed to let her do it. She's followed them, basically forced them into it. Fine, right? Yeah. Record the video like we saw the others do, where she's like, "Oh, I am Nora. I have the same body of mind," holding up the newspaper, and they doubt her. They're like, "Hey, that didn't sound convincing. I don't really believe you," and obviously that's telling us, okay, maybe this won't actually go through with it. And again, because we saw her in the future, I mean, admittedly, I was thinking for a long time in this episode that is this actually just the future? Is this something else? And
Yeah, I was going, is the future, is this real? Like, is
yeah,
this all in Nora's head? Is, the same way we speculated about, the other world being in Kevin's head.
yeah, I was thinking this is Noah's version of that almost
Yeah.
for a large portion of it. But anyway, so and they describe the process to her. She has a really nice sort of a farewell scene with Matt. It's very touching. They kind of reminisce, and he talks about his fears and how he's scared of dying. He's scared of not being there for his son, but he's also scared of living because then he has to, go on with that.
Yeah, that speech he gives there where he says, where I have to get up in front of them and tell them that this is going to be the case when I have no idea.
Yeah, he's not as confident in his beliefs like he once was.
Yeah, it was a really powerful moment.
It's a really good. It's a really fitting send off for him. That he's genuinely just there to see her off, and it's it's not about him. He's not making it about his faith. He's just there for her.
Yeah.
Which is maybe different for him than normal. And we get this scene where she disrobes, she goes into the truck. And it almost feels like a sci-fi movie. She's into this thing. There's like a pod at the end of it, and they've explained the process where it looks like water, it feels like water, but it's not water. There's like bits of metal in it, and it'll solidify. Because we see them taking one of the used pods earlier on, and it's like it almost looks like a. I mean, they even call it a fossil, but it was actually reminding me of like a giant, the thing from Jurassic Park in the amber.
Yeah.
When you see it reminded me of that. And Matt's like, is that a person? It's like, yeah, it's the remains of a person. It's just the body. It's like, hey, body's important. But, and you guys completely naked. And obviously they were hiding the nudity until she get in the truck. And then it's this wide shot. And I kind of loved it because it was this, like, she is completely vulnerable. She has let everything go away. She's so determined to do this.
I like that you like you said they hide it until she gets inside, and it's like, oh no, not until she's alone. You don't see it until she's completely alone. Up till then, she's hidden, and then now she's on her own. She's who she actually is.
And it's so cold and clinical. She gets in this pod. Music's playing. Water's filling up. Like I say, not actually water, but same difference.
Liquid, fluid,
and it's blowing up, and it goes up to her chin. She's just like, and I'm expecting at any moment for it to yell stop. I'm expecting it.
She takes that last breath because they said you got to hold your breath 30 seconds.
And then it cuts to the future. And we actually see essentially the same scene we did at the end of the first episode of the season. And we see that play out again, ending with, this guy named, does his name Kevin mean anything to you? No. Then we get the rest of it. There was a guy named Kevin, he had your photograph. I didn't tell him anything, but I think he knew I was lying. And it's like, okay, so we're here. And we see she lives here. We don't quite have the context for the birds yet. We get that later on at the wedding, which neatly ties into everything this show's ever done, where it's all about the hopes and dreams, and everyone writes the little messages, and they let the birds all fly off at the wedding, but they're all trained to just fly to Nora's, because they think that these messages are going to go all over the world, but they all go back to Nora's, and she just puts them in a bin.
It's all a sham.
It's all a sham. And yeah, so it plays into that side of the show's themes that they've had the whole time. And she's going about her business, and the door goes, and there's Kevin. He's
old man Kevin.
Yeah, old man Kevin. I will say, I thought the old makeup looked better on him than it did on her.
I feel like she needed a couple more wrinkles.
Yeah, she felt.
I liked the sun weathered look that she had, but skin still felt a little too young.
Yeah. She felt dressed up, whereas Kevin actually kind of convincingly looked older.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's there. Also, I like that he's shaven, because that's just because when they filmed the last episode, they had to do all the bearded stuff first and then do all the shaven stuff. So now he was unshaven for the finale, so they had to have him in the future unshaven.
Yeah,
that's
but
the reason
I think it was
for
a nice twist where when we got to this season and they did the time jump and they showed all the time jump, like all the men had beards now.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, now we're even further in the future. The beards are gone. It's like, okay, it's back to this. It was just this neat way of showing the passage of time as well as obviously the convenience that we're already aware of.
Yeah. But this is where things get bizarre, because he references the meeting at the dance in the school when they first met, and she's sitting behind against the lockers, and that experience, and he implies that that's the last time they ever spoke, and That he just, he was, on vacation in Australia, and he saw her on her bike and decided to inquire if it was her and come and find her because he felt a connection. And I'm like, okay, this feels so. Either he's doing a bit, he's doing a bit, right? That was always a possibility. He's doing this to be kind of romantic in a weird way, or this is like an alternate version of events from her. Like, if this is her version of the other world, then he doesn't remember anything after that. She does clearly, but he doesn't. And it kind of works to an extent because you think this is almost her ideal version of him before everything went bad. But it was just that promise at the start of the excitement of who he was and that it was someone she could talk to and relate to and all these other things. And he asked her to dance. He's like, "Hey, I was just wondering." And I just want to say the acting in this scene's fantastic. Like, I don't think I can stress this enough. I mean, throughout the whole episode, of course, but I think anytime those two are speaking to each other in this episode, it's just like,
it's fantastic.
Kevin has this thing about him in this episode where it's the first time I've seen him be, I don't want to say cured, but not messed up, where he feels like there's a genuine sort of like
normal. He feels like a normal person instead of the broken man that we.
Yeah, he's not broken. It feels like he's actually trying to be romantic and win her back instead of his usual kind of roundabout dark ways of doing things. And she's obviously not very comfortable. She tells him to go away, and he's like, "Hey, it's a party. It's the middle of the street in the town that's nearby. You can't miss it. If you change your mind, I'll be there." And probably the only thing that we might give negative marks for this episode.
I'm calling this negative.
Is she goes to a phone. She doesn't have a phone in her house. She goes to a payphone that's out on one of the roads, and she calls Laurie. Now this is the thing. When I thought this was still maybe her
Dream
version
world,
of their world,
yeah.
I was like, oh, if they leave that ambiguous, then we can still say that Laurie is or isn't alive.
That is it. But
no,
I don't like this. I'm sorry. I just don't like this.
I'm not upset about it. I do think I liked the ambiguity before. I did.
I said in that episode, I want to never find out. I don't want to know. I want them to leave it so anyone can take their interpretation.
I mean, I was leaning towards alive, I think.
You were, yeah.
I'll take the win.
You did. You said you leant towards alive when she phoned the kids.
You're wrong. That was right. I'll take it.
I didn't say that she was dead. I said I wanted to not know.
Yeah, but now that I've won.
Yeah, but that doesn't make me wrong.
Of course it does. Take your Australia and shove it straight up your arse.
You being right does not make me wrong if I didn't argue with you.
What kind of sane logic is this? I'm right, you're wrong. Deal with it.
For God's sake.
Do you know how much I've perfected I'm slapping the desk to make a point but not actually doing it because it'll move the mic?
It'll make a big loud noise, yeah.
Yeah. I do it all the time now without thinking about it.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it?
But I've realised that it's ingrained in my head now that I just do it without
actually hit the desk. Yeah.
I need to put in some Foley at the end just to give it the right amount
real
of
thump.
Yeah, but not too much, of course, which is the point because that's why I'm not actually hitting the desk. Anyway, phones Laurie and she's like, "Hey, did you tell him?" And she's like, "No, I didn't. Like, confidentiality. I wouldn't do that." But it basically all gets to this point where she brings up and it's like, "Hey, you're not phoning me because you know I would never tell him. Like, it's been presumably years, and I never told him. So why would I now? Like, you're phoning me to ask if it's okay to go to the dance. That's what you want." And we also see she's holding a baby as well, and obviously, given their ages that are supposed to be now, I'm assuming grandkid at this point, which they confirm later on.
Yeah.
And Nora, being her usual self, is stubborn in admitting what she actually wants. That is very, very Nora. The whole show has been Nora. She can't actually admit how she feels or what she wants, and she gets dressed up. And she rides her bike out, and she finds this party in the street. And it was actually, as we were getting close, I'm like, "This looks like a wedding."
Yeah.
He said it was a dance, and rightly so, she brings this up, and they sit down, and again he keeps this bit up. He's like, "Hey, no, well, that was the last time we seen it." And she's like, "Yeah, what about the court? We're both getting divorces, and I asked you to go to Miami." He's like, Nah, don't be silly. If you'd asked me to go to Miami, I'd have said yes.
Yeah.
It's just all these little things, and obviously the bride comes over, and very pregnant bride might I add.
A very heavily pregnant,
Yeah.
yes.
And you feel like they'd rushed this wedding a little bit.
Like, clearly 9 months pregnant.
Yeah, they were close to the bone on this one.
Yeah.
And Kevin informs us of a lot of things. He informs us about Jill and Tom, which I will say I would have liked to have got a glimpse of them. I think
Especially Jill.
Yeah, because we saw her once in the first episode she visited. I think it'd have been nice to see her just maybe just come in and pick up the kid when Laurie was on the phone. Something as simple as that.
I think especially as she was such a major part of the first season. Like, Tom had his own plot, but he was always off on the side. Whereas Jill was so heavily integrated into that first season, into the family, that I missed her this season. And
don't get me wrong, I guess it's not about them. This episode's about two people. It's about Nora first and foremost, and it's about her and Kevin. But kind of like how we had Laurie for a scene, like just have her come up and pick up the baby or something. Like, just let us see her.
Yeah, we didn't really get her send off at all this season.
I mean,
I get, like, we said this the whole time. Okay, her story's over. They haven't got a story for her. That's why she's not here. In
hindsight, it works. Like, if you remember our last scene, she's sort of asking Kevin if he's okay. She's making sure, like, I'm doing okay now. Like, it does actually feel like kind of a send off in a weird way. It just feels weird not to get a glimpse of her and Tom, I think, in this finale.
They just didn't want to do the makeup on them, did they?
Probably, yeah. Like, again, given their ages, especially Jill, it'd be a lot like that Harry Potter coda, where like you're making someone who's like 20 look.
I wonder if they did, test it on them, and then they were like, this isn't working, and just scrapped it.
Yeah, maybe. At least on her, I feel like I think it's easier to be a guy if you give him a beard. Just give him the beard.
It. Beard, touch of grey.
Yeah, easy. He looks old.
Yeah. That's it.
I mean, I probably pass for much older than I actually am half the time. I don't know.
Yeah. It's not hard, is it?
It's not. So, and they dance. Obviously, let's not ignore some of the symbolic stuff is set up in this wedding scene.
It is.
Literally, a scapegoat is brought out, and they have this tradition where they put all the beads on the goat. They're all wearing beads at the thing, which Nora didn't take. She was offered beads.
Yes,
some guy tried.
No, she has none. Important.
Yeah, someone was trying to force beads on her, but then later on, this guy's like, the beads represent all our sins and our past mistakes, and we give them to the goat, and we'll let the goat ride off, carrying our sins away. We start afresh. We start anew, and we can grow from there. And I was like, okay, I'm sensing something coming with this goat at some point, just knowing this show. And in the dance, and she sort of freaks out and leaves because this just doesn't feel right. It's a lie, basically, is what she says. And I actually really love that shot of Kevin just being left there on his own on the dance floor, and everyone else is dancing around him. Yeah. So it's a really nice shot. And she's riding back, and she's riding her bike. It's some really nice stuff. And she's riding down this sort of countryside road, and she hits the. We don't see what she hits at first, of course. We just see the bike flip, and we're like, oh, what happened? And it's beads. There's beads across the road. Okay, I see what you're doing here. And then she sees the goat's in pain. We can hear the goat. He's tangled in a barbed wire fence because the beads have caught into the fence, and he can't get away. It's up a hill. And Nora, one of the theme songs starts playing, the piano gets going, and Nora's climbing up this hill to get to the goat. She's
falling back down.
She falls back down, and then she's crawling on her hands and knees to get to this goat, to free the goat of its sins that it's carrying. Now, I got that obviously she was crawling. What I did not expect to happen, and I smiled greatly when it did, was when she takes the beads off the goat, she then puts them on, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, right, we're going full metaphor with this.
Yeah. I think it's here where we've been talking a lot about how Kevin has been this Jesus figure, especially, obviously, there's been a literal gospel being written about him.
Yep.
And he's played into that myth. But this is where Nora takes on that role, for me at least. I mean, maybe you have a different read, but the idea that she went in, she was pure, she had no sins, and then she took the sins off them and untethered the creatures so they could be free, and she took the burden instead. That's the whole Jesus shtick.
the whole Jesus shtick.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that phrasing. No, I can see what you're saying. That I don't know if I'd necessarily agree she didn't have any sins when she went in, per se. Like, she refused them because she's not willing to accept that she has them. She's not willing to accept her baggage.
That is another reason. I was considering that.
And I think for me, her taking the beads, it wasn't so much that she's taking the burden for everyone else. It's that she doesn't care she's taking them all. I mean, oh, she does. Like, I think it's symbolic because she's kind of almost accepting them here. It's like, no, I have all these different sins from all these different people on this one go. Mine equal all of those, so I'm going to put them all on. So you can sort of say that, and part of just the idea that she takes them all on and doesn't care, because that's what she does. She puts this baggage. She has all these problems, all these issues, and she doesn't admit them, and she just sort of ignores them. So you could read it both ways. You could read it as that she's kind of accepting them in this scene, or you could read it as she's putting them on because she just doesn't care, and like she, again, to a fault. But she does save the goat, so she does do something good, and she takes the goat back home.
I did like that the goat. If the goat represents all the other people, that it was literally it was stuck because of its sins. It was tethered to earth because of its sins, and not until it was freed could it until the sins were gone could it be set free.
Yeah, and she brings the goat back home, and she's sort of washing up, and the goat ends up kicking over the bucket with all the little messages. And the birds have not come back, by the way. The doves have not returned.
No, they haven't.
In fact, we've skipped out a scene because it's not on the way home she has the accident. It's after she's came home, the birds aren't there, and she goes to the nun to find out, and she catches some, because a 60-year-old playboy coming out of the nun's window on a ladder and riding off on his bike.
And he's just like, all right.
It's like, yeah, that's not weird at all. And it's like, you just had sex with someone. You're a nun. It's like, did I? The nun plays it so coy, and it's like, hey, we all have our vices. You just have to be kind of honest to yourself about them. Whereas Nora's looking for faults and say, oh, you're not perfect. Like, you're supposed to be perfect and you're not. Because, again, that's Nora's weird, messed up view in the world. But she comes, that's when she has the accident. But she brings the goat back, and the goat knocks over all these things. The birds still aren't back. And she starts reading through them, and I mean, obviously, we're going to get to one that was kind of meaningful to her, right? But there were some funny ones. There were some jokes in there. Someone has erectile dysfunction. Some people put in some jokes. And she gets to one that says, I know you're out there. Mm. Now, which obviously, that has a lot of context. Obviously, someone could be saying, I know my loved one that I've not found yet is out there. I'll find my wife or my husband or whatever. But it works because, obviously, it sets up, because Kevin shows up here. She's sitting there, that's feeding the goat and reading these messages, and Kevin walks up, and he finally drops the shtick. And this is obviously at this point we're so far in the episode, I'm like, okay, we're not going back. This is just where we are now. But this is the point where it confirms it in story, because Kevin drops the thing.
This is where this is real.
He brings out everything, and he's like, do you want to know how I found you? Because she asked him a few times. She asked him at the party, at the wedding, and he keeps saying the same thing.
When he's at a door as well, the first time.
I saw you on the bike. I thought, I recognise her. He's like, no. Every year I have 2 weeks vacation time, and every year I come to Australia, and I show people your picture, and I ask, have you seen her? And almost every time they laugh at me. They don't laugh. Sorry.
They just say, no, sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. And, every year he's like, this is the last time I'm doing this. This is soul destroying. But he believed, even when she didn't show up to Matt's funeral, which, by the way, he mentioned 400 people went to. He was greatly loved. He went out like a winner. He believed she was out there somewhere. He just couldn't let it go. He had to find her. Like I couldn't let the last time I ever spoke to you be in that hotel room with what I said. But then he says that specifically when he gets back inside. But the whole thing just plays out. He just speaks his heart out, and it's the most genuine and honest Kevin's ever been.
It's a hell of a monologue, isn't it?
It's great. It's fantastic. You're already getting the feels from this. And she offers him tea, so they go inside. And the conversation keeps going.
She asks, how much of what he said was real? Because obviously he's been telling her this story.
But all of it is. Everything other than that, other than everything about him forgetting her, is all real.
Oh, and the fact that he still lives in Japan. He didn't go back to, he does still live there.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But his heart condition's real. His dad's still alive, the kids.
Yeah, his dad's 91, kids. John's still his neighbour with
Yeah.
Laurie, and
Michael's run the
Michael's run the
church.
church. Yeah, so all this stuff. It's okay. It's nice to hear all these things. Like everything's going nice and well. And he's still a policeman from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, no. So, but no, the whole thing. Every year on his vacation time, he goes to Australia and he searches because he has to. And of course, and obviously we find out he's quit smoking, and that's connected because he had a heart condition. Because obviously, she cracks a joke about him being immortal earlier on because she says
Yeah.
she's immortal, and he's like, nah. Turned out that wasn't so true. Had a heart condition the whole time.
Yeah.
That wasn't diagnosed. He's got a pacemaker, and eventually I'm like, okay, she has to tell us the story. She has to tell us what happened. Because when I thought it wasn't real, maybe I thought we were going to cut back to that moment where it was just filling up and she was going to say, "I'll stop." Like this was all going to flash in her eyes almost before it happened. Or
I
something
was
like
half
that.
expecting that for a long time.
Yeah. For a long time.
Like it was going to be this is what I'm giving up. This is what I've done by not being around.
Yeah. And she tells the story. She get in the truck. She went in the water, and when she woke up, she tells the story. So when she woke up, she was in the same place as she was before, but there was no trucks. There was nothing. She was just her, and she was naked. And she went wandering. She eventually came to a store that she got into and took some clothes, but she couldn't see anyone. There was no one around. It was a ghost town. And she kept walking, and found a few people. And she's in Australia, of course, and it's mostly empty though. But she believes that her family will be in Mapleton where she left them, and it takes her a long time. I assume years it would have probably took because there was no. Because as she points out, because what it quickly becomes clear as she's talking about this is that it's funny because I was kind of saying a long time ago that I thought they went to a second parallel Earth, and the way she describes this, it's almost like when it happened, the Earth split in two.
That's the way I was taking it. Yeah.
And the second Earth, all the buildings are the same as our Earth, as the Earth one, but it's only the people who left that are there now. So there's much less people. It's only what was it, 2% of the population? So.
Yeah, and she talks about before she leaves that couple that she ran into and how they talk about how they lost all these people. Like one of them lost her kids, grandkids, all these people, and that's where she realized what had happened.
Yeah, it's this woman lost her husband, her kids, her grandkids, and you realize that it's not them that vanished. She's the one who vanished, and she lost everyone else, and. She's like, okay, so I worked for a long time because there's planes there, but there's not enough pilots.
It's like as she says, it's like we lost some people,
they lost
everyone,
and it's actually really fascinating. Like how many pilots out of 2% is there? Do you think in the planet?
Not many.
A dozen, maybe.
More than that.
More than that, yeah.
Maybe a couple hundred at most.
At most, yeah. It's an interesting idea to think about. But she says it took a long time to get there. Long time to travel, and she eventually got to her house, and she knocked on the door, and she didn't even recognize her son at first because he was a teenager, which makes sense if you actually
7 years have passed.
7 years have passed, so he would be that old, and daughter's maybe about 11, and she's like, she's her husband, her ex-husband, if you will, with a wife. They found someone here, and they're happy, and she was the ghost. That's what she calls herself. I was the ghost. And okay, this is fascinating stuff. But then she said she left because she realized she had no place there. Like she was the odd one out, so she didn't belong there. So she found the first guy who went over, the man who built the device that let people travel. She went to him, and she asked him to build another one because he already knew how. That's the exact phrase she uses. He already knew how, so he built another one so she could come back. And I love this story.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. I love it because if you want to just take her word for word, it works
perfectly.
It works perfectly, and it ties into exactly some of the weird theories that I was coming up with last season.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So I was smelling like a madman throughout this. But much like Leftovers has always done, it's playing it so that you can take it either way. You can take this.
This could just be a story.
This could just be a story. and it's all about whether or not like you believe it. It's all about getting over things. It's all about all these things, and it's funny because for as screwed up as Kevin was, and Kevin was really screwed up.
Yeah.
Nora was maybe worse. Nora took longer to maybe get past
absolutely.
things and realize.
I think we often said Kevin was screwed up in a very normal way because he was screwed up before the departure. He was going through his midlife crisis, and that's kind of what his screwed up was. It was a very relatable version. Whereas Nora was screwed up because of the loss, because of the event. It was very different.
And I think, obviously it ends in this really touching moment where, because he asks, why didn't you just come find me? Why didn't you just tell me, like, and she's like, because I couldn't bear that you wouldn't believe me. And, they're both, the acting's phenomenal here. He's, like, crying. He's like, I believe you. I believe you.
So you're here, I believe you.
Yeah, and I love the message of this because you can take away that did she go somewhere, didn't she? What this is just really kind of saying here is that in grief, in guilt, in getting over your problems, having someone just support you is really all you need. He doesn't really care if it's true or not. Not really.
It doesn't really matter to him because he hasn't lost anyone. He hasn't got anyone over there. He's never been the one wondering, where are they? Not to the same extent that people like Nora who did lose someone are wondering.
Yeah. It's a really touching ending. Obviously, the camera goes outside. Obviously, one of the main themes is playing. As this, obviously, we had to end with the main theme.
Of course,
playing.
It wouldn't be right any other way.
And we finally see the birds finally come home. They're like it's a day and a half later than they should be, but they finally land and they're coming home.
Yeah. And we speak a lot about how at times Leftovers has been on the nose with its messaging, and it was nice to get one last moment of okay, it's on the nose. We're late, but we finally got there. We finally got through all this grief. We're finally back to where we should be.
Yeah, I think this ending is actually very perfect in a lot of ways. It's perfect because it plays into that ambiguity of believing something's actually happened or something hasn't happened. There's still the mystery there. But the emotion of it works either way. The emotion is completely there. Because Kevin, for maybe the first time in the show, just takes something on faith. Because it's what she needs him to believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it. There's almost hardly anything you could do better with the finale.
There's not. Honestly, my biggest problem with this episode is Laurie. It really is. I just didn't want I just didn't want confirmation. But they set themselves into a hole by going down this path of okay, no, this is just the future, and this is just who's around. When you've got Nora asking about Jill and Tom, you're going to have to tell us about Laurie because otherwise we'll be going, well, why aren't they mentioning it?
Yeah, because as much as we knew we were getting some future stuff with Nora and possibly Kevin, I don't think we were expecting most of the episode to be that. And
no, not at all.
And certainly I wasn't expecting it. They've not seen each other for years, so of course they're going to start asking about these things. It just makes sense.
It does. It's just disappointing.
I wouldn't say I'm disappointed per se, but I agree. I liked it better ambiguous.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in it's the only time this show has not been ambiguous. Like whenever it's wanted to be, it's just left it open. Like even now, we don't know if Kevin's other place was real. We don't know if what Nora saw was real. It's just what you choose to believe is what happened essentially. Like you can form your own opinion and go, I believe in this version of events in the same way that, Kevin and Nora do. And it just seems really out of place for Laurie to be the only one of those that you can't have that decision with.
Yeah. Yeah. I have nothing to counter it.
It's a great show, though.
No, it is. It's been a fantastic journey. And I think the emotional core of it is what actually makes it work, but the mystery adds a lot of stuff to it, where you get to theorize and you get to, talk about divine meaning and talk about does something represent this, or is it just a simple story about human emotion, which it kind of is.
It is.
It is at its core, but there's all this extra stuff, and if you want to believe in all these crazy other things, especially for people like us who love shows like Twin Peaks or love things like Mr. Robot or love things where there is maybe something else going on and you want to talk about what these things are. Even though after the last episode with Kevin, I'm pretty convinced that was in his head. It felt like the whole thing was designed around his life. If that makes sense.
No, that's true. I did see we did have a comment on YouTube which pointed out one thing that maybe counteracts that.
Oh, go on.
Christopher Sunday. He didn't know what Christopher Sunday looked like.
Can you confirm that 100%?
Why would he know? He never met him. He never saw him.
His dad might have shown him a photograph.
Maybe, but I feel like this was intentionally more ambiguous because I did think about this. It's been a while since we recorded that now.
I'm just, I think it's not entirely unlikely that he could have seen a photo.
It's not impossible, but it's just left open enough where it could go either way.
No. I love that the story Nora tells is just a story. We have to just take her word for it.
We don't see any of it.
Yeah.
I think that was clever because we could have spent 15 minutes of this episode going through that with her and then having the future stuff. We could have done.
Yeah, we could have filmed all of that. We could have not even then. I would have saved it for when she's telling the story. I would have just seen it as she was telling it, and it'd be like, because that doesn't prove it's real. Like we say, the Kevin stuff, we were debating, is this real or not? Like, it doesn't have to be.
We believe that Kevin experienced it.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean what he experienced was real.
Yeah, and I think if you want to actually boil down to logistics, like the proof that maybe it was real, well, everyone else who went into this device did disappear, and Nora's back.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like,
what did all those people go into hiding as well afterwards? I mean, that doesn't.
Well, this is the thing. Nora chose to come back, but her body. We saw them take out that body, the fossil as they called it. So would they not have had one of those for Nora?
Yeah. Well, the fossil. I mean, it wasn't like the. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't like it was a skeleton. It was just like a hole for. It was just the shape of where the body was, right?
No, that's true.
So.
No, you're right.
Is this just like the Hugs again, where like it's debatable doing nothing? It's a placebo almost of.
Yeah.
But it's so absurd and crazy that it just makes you hallucinate and see all this stuff that you need to see.
Yeah.
But no,
it is ambiguous, and I like that.
I think because the relationship got really toxic earlier this season. It became. In fact, even one of the previously on scenes was her on the plane when they were just saying, this is what we'll say to them as a cover, but she basically just described the relationship, and I think it is the most fitting ending possible, because we said in season 1 they have chemistry, they seem right for each other, that ultimately they can be right to, and obviously it felt like that way at first, then it kind of went down a dark path, but it makes so much sense to me that the end of this show is them kind of finally both been in a place where
they can be happy.
We can just be happy now. Yeah, we can just be old together, and and there is something romantic about him just coming to Australia every year and searching.
Oh, there absolutely is.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Great show. I think season 2 is probably my favourite.
No, I agree. I don't think season 3 as consistently hit the highs that season 2 did.
It's still excellent TV. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But it's just not quite the level of season 2 hit. It just hit me a little bit harder.
Yeah, I think International Assassin is probably my favourite episode, but I mean, maybe I have to
agree with that.
Think about it. That scene down the well with Patty may be my favourite scene of the show.
Yeah.
But these 2 final scenes with them as a pair, outside and then and having the tea.
Just fantastic.
Yeah. I just, again, I like that it's going back to that whole, because Damon Lindelof of course worked on Lost, and it's kind of that whole thing with the mystery, and here it was like, no, they said from the start, no answers, you just accept it's a mystery, then that's fine. Which is funny, because for a long time, like, I felt like this stuff, this future stuff could be kind of like something that was in the final season of Lost. I was getting a vibe from it that was kind of similar, and I was curious about that. Especially when we, seen various other things that were going on, but
do you know what I think I do like about them telling this story is, for all those people who, even though they've always said, "Oh, we're not going to give you any definitive answers, we're not going to tell you where they are," but there was always those people who were like, "Well, we want to know."
You can just believe her.
You just believe her. Just go, look, you got your answer. You've pleased everyone. Then, if you don't want to believe her, if you don't want to know, Fine. She,
Because
she imagined it all. She's hallucinating. She's just making up a story for Kevin.
I think that's what makes it work so well, though, is that in a weird way, she's like those viewers who just need an answer. She can't go on without one. She's desperate to know. So she's found her answer and she believes
Whereas
it.
the rest of us, who don't need to know, more like Kevin, because Kevin never had that drive to know. But here it's just like, well, I don't need to know, but I'll support you in knowing what you want to know.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. People help each other heal. Don't be an island. That's the best.
Especially if that island is Australia.
It's okay. He's going to take her back to Jordan now. It's fine.
Are they, or is he going to go? Well, I can retire. We can come live on this little farm.
Nah, because she'll want to see Jill and Tom and and John and Michael and Erica and see them all.
Probably.
Yeah. Maybe confirm that she's not dead for everyone. That'd be nice. But hey, that's us. That is the Leftovers finale. So
we made it.
It's been a journey. So again, we shouldn't be able to say Merry Christmas as this goes out, but we can. So Merry Christmas. Let us know, of course, what you thought of the finale and the series as a whole. I think ultimately what I'll say again is this last episode, it still had some of the symbolism, it still had all that stuff, but ultimately it chose to focus on just the characters and the relationship, essentially.
Absolutely.
And I think that's maybe a smart choice, especially for a show like this. So, but no. So let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mild_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mildfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that's us. So thank you once again, guys. That has been The Leftovers forever, because we're done. That's the last episode. Feels great to finish the show. So we will see you sometime for something else. But that is
no idea what, no idea when, but it'll happen.
Yes. Well, for older shows that are already finished, for new shows that are currently running,
we know exactly what's coming up there.
Yeah, any time, most days, most weeks, every week.
Yeah.
So,
pretty much.
Thanks, guys. Keep watching TV. We'll see you next time.